Stay at home, break the chain, save lives. The words of the Prime Minister this afternoon. We're with you through until 7 o'clock tonight as the country prepares to go into lockdown. Today's vital numbers: 50 new confirmed or probable cases of Covid-19, bringing the total to 205. Border security will be stepped up. Everyone arriving in New Zealand will be screened. Those displaying symptoms of Covid-19 will be placed in an isolation facility. 5 cases are connected to Auckland's Marist College. All students and staff from the school should already be in isolation. 4 cases are now regarded as community transmission, meaning health authorities don't know how they contracted it. The good news: 23 of the 205 people are fully recovered. 6 are in hospital and none have needed ICU care. 1,400 tests were processed yesterday, and that's almost 10,000 tests in total. The Tokyo Olympics have been postponed until 2021. Over the next 3 hours, we'll tell you what essential services will be open over the next 4 weeks. The Prime Minister will join us live at 5:20 tonight, and the mayors of our main cities will join us after 6. But first, let's go to our gallery where our political editor, Jane Patterson, joins us live. Jane, the Prime Minister has outlined some new, tougher rules around our borders. What do we know?
One of the greatest risks at the moment coming from overseas, returning New Zealanders. Now, of course, the borders have been closed to non-citizens and permanent residents, but there are still potentially thousands of New Zealanders still out in other countries, and the government has not been able to put a very specific figure on it, but it is in the number of thousands. Now, obviously, because they are still in countries that have outbreaks or could have been exposed, coming back here poses a massive risk. So what they are going to do, anyone arriving at the border, and if they will be screened, if they have symptoms, they will be tested and quarantined immediately. And the government has set up basically hotels or motel rooms close to airports. They will be using those to be able to put people in there if they are being tested, and also if they can't demonstrate very clearly that they have somewhere to go and that they have a self-isolation plan. Now, for those New Zealanders who come through who don't have symptoms and who have a plan, they will be able to go home, but they will be checked on regularly by the police, and the Prime Minister has said that if they are found to be breaching the rules, they will be fined and quarantined.
Also today, Jane, there were, special powers and a national state of emergency declared. What does that actually mean?
It basically means that the government now has unlimited powers across the justice system, across the health, welfare, tax, finance, you name it. Any portfolio or area where the government has authority, they can now pretty much do what they like in terms of the response to Covid-19. Now, we have the opposition fully backing those moves today, saying this is extraordinary powers to give to a government, but they are justified in these circumstances. Now, the state of emergency was declared at 12:21. There's also an epidemic notice, and both of these are in place for a number of months, but can be adjusted accordingly. So they are not in perpetuity. They do have a time limit on them, but of course they'd be reviewed. So we've got our Parliament sitting for a very special sitting this afternoon. We had a very skeleton staff or presence of MPs dotted around the debating chamber. They declared the state of emergency, they issued the epidemic notice, and now they're working their way through legislation to give them the tools or the legislative authority they need. In particular, that massive financial support package had to go through the House. That has happened. So the Prime Minister saying late this afternoon that the government now has all the tools and all the legislative authority it needs to go into this month-long lockdown.
And I suppose you can have all the tools in the world, but if people do not play their part, we're still going to have a problem. So Sarah Stewart-Black and the Prime Minister and all those others in the main control group from the government reiterating today that they will take a tough line. What does that mean?
Well, the police and military under these powers will be able to keep order If there are gatherings of people, for example, they will be able to disperse that. They will be asking people out and about, what are you doing? Are you going to the supermarket? Do you have a good reason for being here? Essential services will have letters and ID cards so that they, going about their business, will be able to present that and show why they are out and about. But also the Prime Minister and Sarah Stewart-Black, the Civil Defence Controller, said, don't be alarmed by this. The police and military, seeing them on New Zealand streets, not the police, but the military, is incredibly unusual and might be quite disquieting for some New Zealanders. But both reiterating they are there to help, to treat them like that. Don't treat it as though they are here in opposition or doing anything that the government doesn't want them to do. The other messaging that became much more pointed today, if it hasn't been already, stay home. Over the last couple of days, we've had lots of scenarios, and as journalists and other people, we have like lots of what ifs. What if I want to do this? Can I go to the playground? If all sorts of different scenarios. The Prime Minister and officials are now basically saying, let's not go to those scenarios, stay at home. So in the last couple of days, they've been talking about getting fresh air and going for walks. That message became so important today. Stay home. Don't think about going fishing or hunting or ways that you can get out and about. You need to stay home. You need to get fresh air close to your own home. And if you come across people when you're out walking, stay away. Don't talk to them. Distance yourself and get home. A very, very clear and direct message as we prepare for that midnight lockdown.
Thank you, Jane. That's Jane Patterson, our political editor, joining us live from Parliament.